Hi there, and welcome to another podcast episode. My name is Luisa, but everybody calls me Lu, and I have exciting things to share with you today. I have two finished objects. I wanted to have a third one, but that didn't happen. There's only so many hours in a day, and as it turns out, decision paralysis is a thing. So I'm still working on my lace sweater, but let's jump right in. Yeah, I guess it's time. So the first thing I finished was my striped cardigan. I worked on the Sollas by Rebecca Clow, and let me show you my finished Sollas. It looks so good. It's exactly what I had in mind. Let me show you the back. Yeah, I added stripes to this entire project. I chose the fingering weight version because this pattern also has instructions for a DK weight gauge, and there's also instructions for a Henley and a regular T. Now, talking about the yarn, I used stash yarn for this project. I paired Regia Premium Merino Yak in the colorway 7805, yeah, no, 7508, sorry, 7508, this lovely purple color, and I paired it with Malabrigo sock in the colorway 343 Legend. This is leftover from another project that I worked on last year, the Clematis sweater by Emma Meyer, and this was my color combo for this project. I think these colors complement each other really well, and I am really happy with the final look of my Sollas tee. So I don't really know how I'm going to show you guys my projects today because I don't want to get my mannequin, not because I'm feeling lazy, but I always feel like I sound too serious next to it. So we are trying something new today. I have a hanger here with me, and well, we'll see what happens. If you guys prefer the mannequin, just say so in the comments and I will bring it back. But well, we'll see. I don't know if my arm will get tired really quickly, but anyway. Last time I showed you guys this project, I had already separated for the sleeves, but I was still working on the body. So I finished the body, worked on both sleeves, did all the ribbing detail, blocked and wore it a couple of times because I was too excited to have this in my closet and not wear it. So, well, I would just say it looks really nice, but let me get this hanger out of the way. So, when I was working on the body here, because I added these stripes, I was a little bit limited in terms of the final length of the body because I wanted to finish the body with this Malabrigo stripe and then move on to the ribbing and do all the ribbing details using just this purple yarn. I felt like it would frame the piece really nicely, and I think I was right. I liked the final look of it, but when I was working on the hem here, actually right before I started it, I switched to this purple yarn, and then I knit one entire row with this purple color so that I started the 1x1 ribbing on the wrong side of the fabric, because that way all my purple bumps throughout the hem were worked in the purple color, so everything matched, and I think it looks pretty cohesive. So I'm glad I did that. But when I was working on the hem, kind of halfway through, I ran out of my first ball of this purple yarn, and the second one I had, this one that I showed you, this is just my leftover. This is a completely different dye lot, so I got lucky, and I don't think you can really tell that I switched to a new ball of yarn. Like I said, I got lucky. I should have just alternated skeins or changed to this new ball when I was still working on the stripes, but it completely slipped my mind, and I'm just glad there wasn't an issue in the end. I got this same length issue, let's say, when I was working on the sleeves. So the final length I have here for the sleeve is kind of pretty short. This is much shorter than what the pattern calls for, but I'm happy with the final fit. It's just a little bit shorter than the sleeve I'm wearing today. This is another of Rebecca Clow's patterns, actually. This is the Lusk tee that I worked on last summer, if I'm not mistaken. But as I was saying, this sleeve here is a little bit longer, but I still think it looks nice. Had I added just one more stripe of each color, the length would have been closer to my elbow, kind of elbow length, and it wouldn't have matched the picture I had in my head for this tee. The final length of the body though turned out a little bit more cropped than what I would have preferred. I still think it looks nice. I wore it with a pair of jeans, and yes, it is a little bit shorter, but it didn't bother me. I didn't find myself pulling my tee down or anything like that. So I think in the end, everything is fine. Now, can we just take a moment to appreciate this one by one ribbing, because it looks so neat. Let me show you the hem. I think I can get a better idea. Yeah, it looks so good. Yeah. One by one ribbing is kind of hit or miss for me depending on the yarn. With some yarns it looks really neat, like it's the case here. With others it's just terrible, and I end up switching to 2x2 ribbing or literally anything else because I can't stand the look of 1x1 ribbing sometimes. But with this yarn it looks chef's kiss. It's just so good. So I really recommend this yarn if you suffer from this same issue. Now, the only thing I modified here was the bind off. The pattern calls for a, I think, bind off in pattern, and I tried that, but it wasn't as elastic as I needed it to be, especially here on the hem. I couldn't get a good fit. It was just too snug on my waist. So I tried a few different bind off techniques. None of them really got me the elasticity I needed. So I ended up going with a good old Italian bind off. I wanted to do something different for a change because I feel like I always go with an Italian bind off because it looks nice. It is elastic, which is good, but well, it will happen in the future. This time, good old Italian bind off. Now, when I was working on this button band here, it was the only time I really faced an issue with this project, because when I was knitting the buttonholes, the pattern has you do a pretty standard buttonhole, like yarn over, knit it together, and that's what I did. But the hole I got was so teeny tiny that there was no way my button could get through it. So I experimented with a few different techniques. I watched a video by Norman from Nimble Needles. The video was really nice, but I couldn't make it work for the size buttons I have. Or if it worked for the button, I didn't really like the look of it. So at one point I just thought, why am I even adding buttonholes to this button band? This is a cardigan, yes, but I don't really plan on wearing this with the buttons undone. I see this much more as a tee than a regular cardigan, so why am I even adding buttonholes? Yeah, I know this might sound a bit controversial, but I just skipped all the buttonholes and knit 2 button bands, just like 1x1 ribbing all the way across, and I attached the buttons to both of my button bands. So my buttons aren't really functional, they don't open, and in fact I used the yarn tail to close the button bands together. So you can see here they are just stuck together, and I am really glad I did that because, well, first of all, I did that on my clematis sweater as well. And my idea is to wear this as a tee, like I said. So I don't really plan on wearing anything underneath this. And this way I can make sure that no buttons will come undone. And also that I won't get that little gap in between buttons, like when the button band stretches, you know. Yeah, I think that would look pretty bad, especially with nothing underneath. So I'm glad I sewed both button bands together. We'll see if I will regret this in the future, but I don't think I will. I ended up going with this kind of purple button. I think it looks good. My first idea was to go with like a wooden shade, but I couldn't find it at the shop. So I went with this one and I think it looks good. Now, enough about this project. Since this is a finished object, I just want to quickly run through the yarn amounts and the cost of my Sollas tee. So, yarn amounts first. I used 107 grams of Malabrigo and 130 grams of this purple yarn, this Merino yak. That equals to 958 grams for the entire project, like adding both metrages, and the pattern calls for 1070 meters for the size I knit. I don't really know now why I was playing yarn chicken, but well, at the time I really felt like I wouldn't have enough of this. No, my issue was with the purple yarn. With this one, I was pretty sure that I had enough, and I guess I was right because I still have around 30 grams here left over. So I don't really know what I'm going to do with it, but well, that's a problem for a future me. So yeah, metrage wise, everything was on track. I used just a little bit less than what the pattern calls for. But talking about cost, I paid 38 euros and 13 cents for the yarn. I'm only talking about how much yarn that went into my project. That doesn't take into account my leftovers. The cost of my leftovers will go to another project. And I also paid for the pattern, which cost me 9 euros and 19 cents. Which brings the final cost of my Sollas cardigan, or tee I guess, to 47 euros and 32 cents. And I think there was money well spent on this project. I can already see myself wearing this a lot. I already wore it a couple of times, like I said, but I've been talking about my Sollas for a really long time, so let's move on to my second finished object, which is my cushion. So I finished the Chapter cushion by Lily Kate Franks. And let me show you the final look of it. This is the front panel. This is the back. Oh, it's sideways like this. Yeah. This is the back. Every year I like to work on some non-garment knits. So this was my pick for this summer. And the yarn I chose for this project was Rico Design Essentials Soft Merino. This is 100% wool. And I got this idea from another knitter, another project page on Ravelry. So I didn't come up with these colorways, but I was inspired by another project page. So I chose these 6 colorways as my contrasting colors. And like I said, I was inspired by another project page. The knitter used these same yarns and I just tried to match all the colors. I will link the original project page, the original idea, in my Ravelry project page in case you want to see the original thing, but this is it. Last time I showed you guys this project, I was done with the front panel. This is all done in mosaic knitting, which I love. And I kind of halfway through the back panel. I had already finished this first section of the back panel, so since then I worked on this second panel, let's say second section, and joined everything together. This time around I was right. I was in fact playing yarn chicken, and I lost it because I had to run to the shop and get one extra ball of my main yarn. So this is the leftover I ended up with, and this second piece of the back panel here flew off the needles. I think I needed this second section here in like 1.5 days or something like that, which for me is really quick. So that made me really happy, but I have one complaint. So when you start working on the back panel, the pattern guides you on how many CC stripes to knit for each section of the back panel, and then she tells you to add 2 extra CC stripes on top of that. So that made me think that these 2 extra CC stripes were because of the button closure here. So these 2 CC stripes would be overlapping, and that would have been fine. That's what I accounted for when I planned my stripes, my color sequence and everything. But when I got to the section where I was supposed to join everything together, like front and back, she actually tells you to overlap this for I think 3 or 4 CC stripes. And I completely messed up my sequence here. So you can see that this darker blue here is completely hidden. And it is fine, okay? This is not an issue at all, but my brain is like too control obsessed to be just fine with this. So when I attached the buttons, I attached it to the very edge of my back panel here. I think you can see it. Yeah. It doesn't really look that nice, but I think it will be fine. This is not an issue, like I said. I'm just being very nitpicky. But I'm trying to let go of control and not care so much about little details like this. In the end, they don't matter. I ended up going with the same buttons that I used for my Sollas, not because I really wanted to, but I didn't find anything that I liked at the shop. I wanted dark wooden buttons, I couldn't find it. Then I thought about going with one of you guys' suggestions and go with a white button. Believe it or not, I couldn't find any white button at the shop. So I thought this would be a nice idea, or at least for now, so I can get a usable cushion, functional cushion, and then maybe in the future I will change the buttons. I don't know. At the same time, I kind of like it, although it is purple and I don't have any purple in my cushion. Somehow I think everything looks cohesive. And let me just tell you, this cushion almost broke me. Not because of the back panel, but when I was joining everything together. The pattern has you pick up stitches around 4 sides of the front panel and around 3 sides of each of the back panel pieces. That in and of itself took a really long time, but then the bind off is just a ni-cord bind off and it feels like it takes forever. I really mean, this almost broke me, but I think the final look was well worth it. So let me see if I can show you like this. Yeah, I think it looks really good. The pattern recommends a 3-stitch I-cord. I ended up going with a 2-stitch I-cord. I don't have much experience when it comes to I-cord. I think I've only done it maybe 2 or 3 times. So maybe I was doing something wrong, but I felt like my I-cord was leaning towards the front panel instead of being kind of in the middle. So I didn't like the look of it. I ended up going with a 2-stitch I-cord, and at least it sits in the middle. So I'm happy. Yeah, I think it looks good. You can kind of see my stitches underneath. You can't really see a column of knit stitches, but somehow I think it matches the vibe of this cushion because of all these pearl bumps. Did I show you this texture up close? Yeah. I think it looks really nice. I mean, I don't think it was an issue at all. I think I had 400 plus stitches for each side of my cushion, so it took me days to do this I-cord bind off, and I ended up rearranging all my stitches in just one needle so that I had all my picked up stitches on one needle, and on my right hand needle I was just doing the I-cord bind off. Because had I just kept doing all this bind off with 3 needles, like 1 needle for the front panel, 1 needle for the back panel, and a 3rd needle for the bind off, it was impossible. I tried that and it was driving me up the wall. It was terrible. I couldn't do it. So I rearranged everything, and it was really a lifesaver because I don't think I would have finished this had I not rearranged all my stitches. I think I would still be binding this off. And I forgot to say, but I have, I think, 7 buttons. 2, 4, 6. Yeah, I have 7 buttons here. My initial idea was to add only 6, but when I was doing the buttonholes, I completely forgot that plan, and I need 7 buttonholes, so I had to add 7 buttons. But that is fine. I don't think it looks like there are too many buttons. I mean, maybe a little bit, but I think it looks fine. It will be fine. Everything is fine. Now, since this is a finished object, let me get my notebook back and let's talk about how much yarn I've used and the cost. So when it comes to the main color, my white cream yarn, I've used 212 grams. The pattern calls for 185, so I used quite a bit more yarn than what the pattern calls for, but I think my gauge was off, and I don't know if I need a bigger size overall. I don't think I did, but I know my gauge was off, so maybe that's why. And for the contrasting colors, I used 210 grams, like combining all 6 contrasting colors. The pattern calls for 165. So again, I used quite a bit more yarn. But now that I'm thinking about it, I used Aran weight yarn, and these yarn amounts in the pattern are for a worsted weight yarn. So maybe that played a role here as well. But talking about cost now, I've paid for the yarn, which cost me 50 euros and 60 cents. And I also paid for the pattern, which cost me 6 euros and 2 cents, which brings the final cost of my cushion to 56 euros and 62 cents. And yes, this is a lovely cushion. I love the final look of it. I think it's going to look really nice, but it's kind of expensive as well. That's 100% on me. That's the yarn I chose for this project. I could have gone with something a little bit cheaper, yes, but I think it was worth it. I like it. I had a good time while working on it. My initial idea was to gift this to a friend, but I'm not. I'm going to keep this for myself. But yeah, I just don't see myself knitting another 50 plus euros cushion. Maybe I'll change my mind in the future. I don't know, but well, that's it. Now let's jump to my work in progress, my lace sweater. And this is going to be a quick update because Working on my cushion and my Sollas tee just took so much more time than I was anticipating that, well, I didn't have much time left to work on my lace sweater. But the project I have here with me is the Madeleine Sweater by Pernille Larsen, or Knitting for Olive. Last time I showed you guys this project, I was already done with the body. So let me just show you my final body in case you haven't seen it yet. This is a bottom-up sweater all over lace. I have already blocked this. It looks nice. I like the fit and everything. And the yarn I'm using for this project is Drops Belle. This is my first time trying out this yarn. This is DK weight. This is colorway 03. I think the colorway name is light beige or something to that effect. This is a summer blend of cotton, viscose and linen. I like this color. I mean, I like the yarn, but I'm not 100% a fan of this color because I think it's kind of yellowy, or maybe too yellowy for my complexion. I think it looks kind of yellowy, no? I don't know. It's fine. Everything will be fine in the end, okay? But I started working on the sleeves. The sleeves are knit separately, also bottom up, and then when you get to the final length, you just graft them together with the body. So that's what I have here. This is the first sleeve, and in theory it is done, but I don't know if I want to go back and change the length because you can see it is pretty short. But, well, we'll talk about that in a minute. First things first. One thing that I didn't really understand when I cast on for the sleeve is the pattern changes the lace motif. I don't know why. Because when you're working on the body, you have this section here of pearl bumps, let's say, in between the lace motif. Repeat, like this section here. This column here of pearl stitches. And you can see you have a certain number of pearl stitches here. But when you cast on for the sleeves, the pattern changes how many stitches you have allocated here. I don't understand why. So I just followed the same thing I did on the body. So this is what I have. If you compare this to the pattern, this looks different. But, well, I felt like it was going to bother me a lot. And I didn't really understand why the pattern did that. So I just changed my sleeve. And everything looks the same now. Well, this is kind of upside down, but yeah, everything looks the same. I think it's going to look a little bit more cohesive, or maybe it won't make any difference, but anyway, talking about the rest of the sleeve. So the pattern has to do some repeats here of the chart, and then you add a lot of increases here to this last section of the lace chart. And then technically I'm at a point where I should just pick up stitches around one of the armholes and then graft both panels together. But if I do that now, the final length of this sleeve will be pretty short. Kind of 3/4 sleeves or something like that. I think the length is maybe something like this. So my idea is I have two options. I can go with a 3/4 sleeve like this, or I can go full length, but I need to rip back this last chart repeat here and then add, I think, 2 extra chart repeats and then work on this last one with all these increases. And I can do that, but if I add 1 extra chart repeat, according to my math, I don't know if my math is mathing, but assuming it is, my sleeve length would be something like this. And this is too short. I can't really wear anything like almost to my hand, but at the same time not really there. I think this is a much smarter way to show the sleeve length. Anyway, but yeah, I can't really have this gap here. It drives me up the wall. It always bothers me. I keep pulling on my sweaters, so I can't really have this. And if I add another chart repeat on top of that, I think the length will be something like this, which will be far too long for the look of this sweater, in my opinion. Maybe you guys don't think so, but I don't know, I think it would be too long. This is more the vibe of a winter sweater, in my opinion. So yeah, I don't know. I'm trying to go with this 3/4 sleeve idea. Maybe you will turn out cute. I don't know. Does it look good? I think it has potential. So my idea is to work on both sleeves. And in fact, I'm already doing that. I already cast on for my second sleeve, but I'm only in the beginning at the moment. So my idea is to work on both sleeves, get this second sleeve to this point here, and then I will pin everything in place, try this on and see what I think. Maybe I will go back and add length to both of my sleeves, but I think this idea, this 3/4 length idea, has potential. Like I said, I think there's a high chance that I will like it in the end, so I am willing to risk it, but I want to do so before I graft everything together, just to avoid having to rip that back. That would be too much work. But I don't know, maybe if you guys have other ideas, I would highly appreciate it in the comments down below. But yeah, this is it. This is my Madeleine sweater for now. Like I said, pretty quick update. I plan on finishing this week if everything goes according to plan. I don't have any other projects on my needles. I usually just have 3 projects, one more intricate like my Madeleine, one more relaxing and easygoing like my striped Sollas. So because of that, I'm already thinking about what I want to cast on next. And I think I will cast on another tee, but a simple one, because this Madeleine sweater is starting to stress me out a little bit. So I'm thinking about pulling this from my stash and work on a striped tee project. Now I don't really remember the name of the pattern. I think it's Show Your Colors. I think it's Show Your Colors tee. I could be mistaken. It will be on the screen for you guys, by Sari Nordlund. And I think it's going to be a really fun and easy project, very relaxing. So that's my idea. I don't know if I will end up casting this on or going with another cardigan. I have this pink yarn in my stash that I've been dying to cast on for a really long time. So maybe I will do that, or maybe I will work on another lace sweater. Or maybe I won't, because having 2 lace projects at the same time is too much for me. But maybe once I finish my Madeleine, maybe that could be an idea. I don't know. But I think I'm leaning towards this one. I think this could be a really fun project. Sorry about the glare of this plastic bag, but I think you can see. Yeah, I think I can get an idea of the colors. I think this will be fun, so maybe I'll cast this on. I guess we will all find out next podcast episode, but anyway, whatever I decide to cast on next, I know I will have a lot of fun with it. So I guess that's it for now. Thank you so much for watching and spending some time with me. If you guys enjoyed this episode of the podcast and feel like sticking around, don't forget to subscribe, leave a comment down below, and give this video a like. It really helps the channel. I really appreciate it. And yeah, I guess that's it. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!